Come on in.
Thank you so much. Sitting here today with Julian Loue at Rise Bakery. We're going to talk about the health benefits of sourdough bread. And bread, in my industry, I hear all the time, like, it gets such a bad rap. And it's something that's near and dear to me because of how much I actually enjoy it. Of course, I eat it in moderation, but we're going to talk to the professional about the ins and outs of the health benefits of actual sourdough. So first of all, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out to meet with me and us. And if you'll just kind of share, well, first of all, how you got your start, and then also if you'll just go into the value and the health benefits of sourdough.
Essentially, my love for bread came from my heritage. I'm French. My father moved back to France about 25 years ago, and when I go to visit there, the local bakery is just part of your daily routine. Everybody eats bread every day, and most people are not obese and they're healthy. So it begs the question, why can they do that there and we can't do that here? What's different? So I started baking my own bread about 4 years ago, doing it with natural leavening or sourdough process. And I think sourdough in and of itself gets a bad rap because a lot of people, when they come in and they say, I don't like sourdough, it's because they've had the sourdough at the grocery store that's really just a yeasted bread with acidifiers added to it that tastes gross.
That's right.
Whereas real naturally leavened bread doesn't have to necessarily be sour. It might have a little bit of acidity to it, and that's one of the byproducts of the long fermentation process of the bread. But we're not going for the sour taste. We're going for the other effects of that fermentation process, which, just like any other fermented foods, whether it's kimchi or kombucha, that fermentation process changes the properties of that product before it enters your body. And for lack of a better word, your bread is being pre-digested by these natural yeast and bacteria that we cultivate here to make the nutrients in the bread bioavailable and to make it easier to digest and more flavorful. One of the big misnomers, and you might be able to weigh in on this a little bit more than I can, people with true celiac disease, a true allergy to wheat proteins, their allergic reaction stems from not gluten, but the other protein in bread called gliadin. There are several proteins in bread. Those are the two main ones. Now, the gliadin protein is the one that typically will trigger a celiac reaction. When we ferment our doughs overnight before we bake them, it gives that natural yeast and bacteria a chance to break down the gliadin protein while leaving the gluten protein intact. And what that means is you get bread that has beautiful structure and form and crumb and a good toothsome chew to it, but it's easy to digest because that gliadin's been broken down.
Yes. So a lot of times we get into that situation and it wasn't because of this type of bread, it wasn't because of the type of bread that I make where I fresh grind, it is because of the processed.
Absolutely.
And so the enzymes are missing, God actually put things together to digest properly, and when we separate those components nutritionally, we are now wreaking havoc in our digestive system. We're causing leaky gut, and then we become celiac or gluten intolerant, gluten sensitive, all these other things, and we're blaming the wrong thing. Nice.
It's not quite ready yet.
Can I smell it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that smells good. So one of the reasons why it's so exciting to me is because I absolutely love bread. Bread about took me out several years ago. I had a thyroid issue, and it was because I was eating way too much. So it wasn't sourdough, but what I have learned is everything in moderation. And so now that I backed out of that, I healed my body, and now I can have bread. But if you do get sourdough, you want to make sure that you have done a little bit of research on who's making it, what components they're putting into that, because they are not all created equal. And just like he talked about, when I have gone to the grocery store before and I bring that sourdough home, I mean, it is as white as can be. It doesn't have those beautiful bubbles like yours do. And you can actually look on the inside and it looks very different. It chews different, it tastes different. And so it's not doing the same thing for your body, so you can't expect the same things. So medically, we want to be very careful. Celiac is a very serious disease. So you want to be careful, you know, if you're gluten intolerant, gluten sensitive, you know, go into it slowly, take your time. The reason why I found out about this bakery in the first place is because I have 2 friends that were gluten intolerant. They had heard that they can eat this type of bread and it not affect them, and they had been getting their gluten-free bread from Trader Joe's, and they don't have to do that anymore because they can actually tolerate this bread.
Well, I think you bring up some good points. You know, to talk a little bit about the ingredients of bread.
Absolutely.
I think untaps kind of a Pandora's box of different talking points. So our breads, on the basic level of how we make our dough, is flour, water, salt. That's it. If we flavor it with something else, we may add in another ingredient, but in order to make dough, that's all you need. 3 things. But yeah, I mean, even that gluten-free bread you're talking about from Trader Joe's, you look at how many ingredients are in that.
Yes.
The gluten-free bread, in many cases, is as much, if not more processed than the glutinous bread in the store. So yeah, it may not have gluten, but is it good for you?
Well, what's interesting is when my daughter and I tried it, we both were we were killing, our stomachs were killing us.
Yeah.
Like, there's no...
well, what else do people have a lot of sensitivity to? Rice, or corn,
or all the other fillers that
or
they put in there.
potato starch, or I mean, you name it, right? Just because it doesn't have gluten doesn't mean it's good.
Right.
Most people aren't sensitive to gluten, they're sensitive to bad bread.
Yes.
You give them good bread and they're fine.
That's right.
People say, oh, I went to Europe and I ate anything I wanted and I came back weighing less and feeling great. Well, we just make our bread like they do.
You brought it here. It's awesome. I love it. I love it.
We have a mill just 45 minutes north from here. They mill beautifully, organically grown, stone ground, whole grains, where everything's intact, the oils are intact, the nutrients are intact, they're stone cold ground, so they don't even get hot during that process to really maintain the nutritional value in all those grains. So I'm able to order our whole grains from them. We bring them down here, we store them refrigerated to make sure that they don't break down or get rancid or anything like that, grow pests. And that's one of the reasons why we're able to make such delicious, wholesome, nutritious bread. We've got a great luxury of that resource that's right here that we're able to partner with. So for people that are extremely sensitive, what I encourage them to do is come on Saturdays, because on Saturdays we offer what we call our 100% Carolina ground whole wheat sourdough. So it's made entirely from just organically grown whole wheat right out of North Carolina. It's a beautiful grain. It's a red winter wheat that goes by the variety of New Yeast. And now we're getting really down to how specific are we being in being intentional with what we're using in our products. They're different. So this is the rye and this is the wheat. And the rye, it looks almost more gray.
Yes.
And you can see when I smush it, it actually kind of clumps a little bit. And that's because all the oils are still intact there.
Nice.
It's this very like fluffy, beautiful product. And then the whole wheat, you can see almost has a more like amber tinge to it. And that's because it's that red winter wheat.
I grind my own wheat. I make my own bread, but I love sourdough, and I didn't want to babysit. Like, there is babysitting involved. You have to care for, what is it called? The starter. The starter, yes. Starter. You have to care for the starter, and I raised my family, and so I'm so thankful for them because I can just come here and I can pick up the loaf, I can take it home, and I didn't have to babysit. And it's probably better than what I would have made anyways, unless I came here and got some instructions from you. So it's a size that you're looking for.
Volume. I put 8 kilos in here. Once it's up to about the 16 mark, I know that it's mature. And then it goes in the fridge because we don't need it till tomorrow.
Okay.
So this thing that like people have this anxiety about and they feel like they're like constrained by the characteristics of their starter, you can tame it just like any pet. You can get it to obey your rules and you can get it to be compliant with what you need it to do.
Okay.
So ours is very compliant. You can see it just bubbling away.
Yes.
And this feeds all our bread. And we want bread to make you feel good,
yes.
right? And when bread doesn't make people feel good, when it makes them feel badly, I try to ask some more questions about that too. Another big part of the reason why commercially made bread is hard to digest for people or causes bloating or discomfort is because they put a lot of yeast into it. Because on a commercial level, on an industrial level, they need that bread to go from flour to in a bag and on a truck in a short amount of time as possible. And what that requires is using a lot of yeast.
You know, when I ate the bread, I mean, because I pay attention to my body, there was zero discomfort. I mean, it was nothing but feeling good because I was full and satisfied. That's what it's all about.
And you get free serotonin with every purchase.
That's right. See, there are still things for free. So.
This is that whole wheat. And you can see the color of it. In England, they would call that a brown bread.
Okay.
Or actually, they would call this wholemeal. It just has a little bit of the bran sifted out, just to lighten the texture a little bit, make it a little easier for us to work with here in house. So it's not quite has all the fiber of a true whole grain, but all the flavor and nutrition is still there.
Looks beautiful to me.
Of course, we offer a wide variety of pastries, and when it comes to our pastries even, we try to make them with as much care as possible. They're not naturally leavened. We do use commercial yeast in the pastries because we get a bit more consistent product that way. But with all of our fillings, we try to use seasonal fruits when they're available. We really try to be like hyper seasonal and local. If we have this amazing resource here, we need to be using it and showcasing this beautiful growing region we have here in South Carolina. We get some of the most beautiful fruit and vegetables, and we're proud to be able to showcase them as well.
Right, which is wonderful. So I'm all for supporting local, and you know, I live by the 80-20 rule, so I actually have time for those pastries, those wonderful pastries. It's about food freedom. I want to thank you so much for taking this time. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. We would like to hear from you. Comment. Let us know what you think about this. Are you eating sourdough? Are you making your own? You know, how's that going for you? But I just want you to know that I'm going and doing the legwork to find the good places so that you don't have to, and then I get to share them with you. So you guys have a great day, and again, thanks for watching. Bye.
I've got a bunch of bread from Saturday. Y'all can take as much as you want.
Oh.